Welcome, Lesley. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Paul. It's really good to be here. Thank you.
The topic that we have chosen for today is so important. It's never too late to rewrite your life. That speaks to me, Lesley. That completely speaks to me. And I've been looking forward to have this conversation with you. And we will get into the topic that we have chosen for today. But first, let us help us understand who Lesley is. So tell us, what is your story?
My story. Well, born in Nottinghamshire, to what I would call a fairly ordinary kind of background, and just growing up and going to school here. And I think from quite an early age, being aware of limitations, and I think those limitations being something I've inherited through parents and grandparents and so on. But just taking them as being, this is how I am. So just growing up with all of that going on around me. And really sort of had my first brush with depression, I suppose, about the age of 17, when I first realized what it was all about. And then I went out into the world of work from the age of 19 and became a secretary. And I was a secretary for about 10 years or so. And when I was about 27, 28, that big dip in depression happened again. And this time it kind of took me out of circulation for about 6 months while I had to recover. And as a result of that, I left the job I was in and I ran away overseas, and I went off to become a holiday rep with a fairly large tour operator. And they sent me off to the island of Rhodes in Greece. They sent me to Benidorm for 3 months, and I'm still yet to forgive them for that. But it's all experience. It was all fantastic experience, and just helping people to make the most out of their holidays and have a good time and just get the most out of life. And after 2 years, I thought I'd done enough. I came back home. I went to work in customer service and decided, no, I still had itchy feet. I hadn't done what I wanted to do. And in the year 2000, I had £600 in one pocket and a return flight ticket in the other, and took myself to Cyprus with an intention of getting a job, probably back in the tourism trade, but no job to go to when I went. And within 3 days, I had a job in a water park. And a month after that, I moved resorts and ended up working back in the tourism industry as a rep and as a resort manager. And I was there for 3 years. And then I felt I'd gone as far as I could. And I could have stayed in a comfortable rut in the sunshine, which would have been lovely. But I still felt I was too young to retire. So I wanted to expand my mind. I wanted to give it a stretch. I came back here. Started working for the University of Nottingham, and with their support I also started studying part-time for a bachelor's degree. And I decided to study something I always enjoyed, which was archaeology and history. And after 6.5 years of study, I graduated, and I stayed with the university in total for 15 years. But during that time, I still kept being haunted by these dips of depression. And the last one lasted for about 2.5 years. I went through countless amounts of medication and counseling and therapy, and never really quite nailing the reason why I had all of this depression or what was really driving it. And I think it was when I was on the last lot of medication that was extremely strong and seemed to have the worst side effects of all of them, I decided to look for alternatives, and I discovered the wonderful benefits of doing meditation. I went into yoga and Pilates and started to just notice a huge upturn in my overall well-being, and especially my mental health. And so with the doctor's help, I came off the medication. And within about 6 months of that, I'd already started my hypnotherapy training. I carried on with that. That took me a year to complete, and then decided, right, this is it. I've got something here I know I can share with other people. During that training, I started to learn a lot about my brain, how my brain works, and what it was finally that had been driving my depression and anxiety from such a young age, what the root causes all of that were. And so as part of my training, I also worked on me. I thought if I work on me, then I'm in a better place to help other people do the same. And at least I know, I have a better idea of what I'm talking about when I'm doing this. And so I stepped away from the university 2 years ago, a complete leap into the unknown. I didn't really have a business set up. You know, everyone says, oh, you must have this in place, you must have that in place. I just went belt and braces, stepped out there. It hasn't been an easy ride because 6 months in, they slapped us into lockdown and everything's been a bit of a roller coaster since then, but I'm still here, I'm still holding on. I now deliver regular mindfulness to staff at a college in the West Midlands. And I've now become one of their preferred suppliers. So I'm with them. They like what I do, so that's good. I still have my one-to-one clients. And so, yeah, now I'm moving forward and I'm run my little group in Facebook as well. And I'm in the process of setting up a short course to help people basically achieve their well-being mentally and physically, not just by using hypnotherapy, but combining that with spiritual growth and healing so that they can align their minds, bodies and spirits to get that perfect balance for themselves and not compared with anything else and just to be themselves. So that's me up to now.
Wonderful, wonderful. What a fantastic story. I kept picking up this theme of leaping into the unknown over and over again. That's a constant theme in your story, isn't it?
It is. It's just, I suppose, when I really feel I need to do something, I will just do it. So although I've had self-limiting beliefs within me for a very long time, even when I decided to go off to Cyprus and I had no idea what I was going to be walking into, I needed to do it, so I just did it.
Yeah.
All of those self-limiting beliefs temporarily just disappeared into the ether, and I just got out there and did it, proved to myself I can do this. Yep, I'm fine, I did it. But those self-limiting beliefs still kept coming back, and they were one of the real roots of my depression as well. They just kept pulling me down and bringing my vibration down and pulling me back down to a low level. So working on that has been, it's affected a huge transformation within me. Yeah. But yes, sometimes I just feel that if you want to make that change, sometimes you've just got to, I call it the Indiana Jones thing, but you know, where he stands there on the precipice in the Last Crusade, and he can't see a way forward to the other side of the drop until he closes his eyes, takes the leap of faith and lands on the bridge that looks identical to the rock in front of him, so he couldn't see it. And it is just a case of, you're not looking properly. If you can't see it, it's because you're not looking for it. You're letting something else block your vision and skewer it. So it's just, sometimes you have to close your eyes to see clearer. Just take that leap. So that's what occasionally I'm given to do.
Wow, that's such a powerful metaphor. That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
And this is why you are somebody who advocates for it is never too late to rewrite your life, because you have done that several times yourself.
That's right, exactly. And I look at age as a number. I've also come now to the belief that age is what you think you are. Mm-hmm. So if you think, oh, I've got into my 50s, like I have, I'm now 55. And I think, you know, if you think to yourself, I'm 55, so I'm really middle-aged now, and I should be like, I don't know, whatever it is, whatever you think you should be, then you'll tell yourself that, and your brain will get you into whatever you think you should be. But my mind keeps telling me I'm 25. And I know sometimes my body gives out the cackle and says, you wish, sweetheart, but I go with my mind. It tells me I'm 25. So, you know, I'm not aging, I'm not old. And so it's never too late to make a fresh start in something. And for me, it's like writing your own book. Okay, you've written that chapter or you've written that volume, but you put a line underneath that, open the page, start another one. So, you know, one volume is never just the end. You can have 2 or 3 volumes to your life, as many as you want. It's up to you. You've always got a blank page to start from. So there's nothing to stop you but you.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I love that we can have several volumes, and I'm guessing we can also rewrite the same chapters if we want.
You can do, yes. I mean, that's what I've done. I went through life believing, you know, that basically I was second best, that I should compare myself, find myself lacking, and that I really wasn't as good as other people. And so when I came into self-employment, that was the first fear I had. I kept looking around at people who seemed to be doing so much better than me. But then I had to stop myself and say, well, hang on a minute, how long have they been doing this?
Mm.
You know, at some point you'll be having done this 5 and 10 years and you'll be in a different place. And at some point they were where you were. So give yourself a bit of patience, have a, you know, cut yourself some slack and just let yourself be, just go with it and stop that comparing. When I figured out that all of that actually had come down through the generations, principally from my mum's side of the family, that, you know, you don't step outside of your comfort zone and don't push yourself too high and all this kind of thing. When I realized that actually that's not my belief, I cut it off. Then I started rewriting my life afresh. And you can use that in therapy as well. Timeline therapy is a very strong way of rewriting your life by going back down through the time, rewriting it and then coming back forward again. So yes, you can rewrite as many times as you like.
Yeah, it is so easy to pick up stories that other people pass on to us, whether they are family or whether it's the society or community, but it is so easy to start to take them on and start living them as if they were our own.
Exactly, it is. And that's what I did for years. And most of my clients, when they come to me, they've been doing the same thing and not realized it, because it's a conditioning. And like you say, part of it comes from society. And the rest of it comes from the generations of our family. And, you know, if you want to find the originator, I suppose you'll be shaking hands with Adam and Eve or somebody when you try to go back far enough to whatever the origin of that belief has been. And it's kind of snowballed and gathered as it's come down to you. But once you realize that and you break it and you write your own belief, so you rub it out like it's pencil and you write your own belief in there instead. And then what you do is the generations before you free them as well. And they lose all of those shackles of those limiting beliefs and you free them. And then for whatever generations to come, I won't have future generations of my own because I've never had children, but I have my nephew and other future generations of my family in different areas that can now move forward without those shackles on. So you do it for them without them realizing it, by doing it for yourself and then the generations before. It is very, very powerful. And I think we become conditioned to just accept things as they are and that we can't change them. We're not powerful enough to change them. And yet there is no greater power than ourselves.
Yeah. I want to trace our steps a little bit. And before we get into how to bring about these changes, I want to understand from you, what are some of the things that we should start noticing? What are some of the symptoms that indicate that rewriting our story would be a good idea?
One of the biggest symptoms, and it won't be a stranger to anybody's ears, I'm sure, is stress. Because we have stress coming to us from many different directions. It seems to be an endemic part of the way that we live in our society. And again, it's something that people tend to accept as a part of life.
Yeah.
Stress is the symptom. And it will be triggered by something. And that trigger will bring forward a memory attached to an emotion. And the stress comes as a result of that. And it's then drilling down really to what is that memory, what is it attached to, and then letting it go to eradicate the stress as much. And I was just trying to think, my train of thought has just wandered off. Stress is something you choose, it's a choice. Okay. So say for instance, somebody in your immediate environment, whether it's a co-worker or a family member, is really letting go of some stress and winding themselves up, you have the choice. You can accept their stress and react to it. And then that can possibly escalate and cause all sorts of fallout. Or you can just take a step back and say, that's not actually for me. I can't do much to change this because they have to change this themselves, but I don't need this. This isn't mine. So I can walk away from this. And you can do that in any situation, is just realize that actually what's going on outside of you is not within your control. The only thing you can control is you. And so to recognize that, okay, this is happening, but it's my choice if I want to get involved and take this on and become stressed with it. So no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to step away from it. And eventually, as you make that your habit, rather than reacting, you stop, reflect, and respond, then the response is going to be a lot calmer. You're going to be a lot calmer, and the stress will melt away. In your health and well-being overall, you'll notice a huge improvement as well. Stress, I think, I'm going out a limb here, but stress, I think, is the number one big killer in this whole world, because it can have a knock-on effect throughout your entire health.
Yeah.
Therefore, trigger a chain reaction within your health that can cause other symptoms. So if you can nail the stress, you can save yourself an awful lot of heartache at the same time.
I even know of people, and I'm sure you know some of those too, who wear their stress like a badge of honor.
Yes, it's an addiction, because you're causing adrenaline and cortisol to be produced within your body, and cortisol is incredibly addictive. And eventually, over time, the more stress that you encounter, you actually start to cause your own stress in order to feed your addiction. And cortisol is very bad for your heart, so beware of that. It can have a very bad effect. So it's finding ways of replacing that addiction with an addiction to healthier hormones, so like dopamine and oxytocin, things that make you feel a lot better, that raise you up and make you feel calmer, more relaxed, more accomplished, more positive. And yes, it does take some work. It takes some inner work. It's not an overnight thing, but overnight you can go from rock bottom to much higher up just in one step, and then you can do more work to keep that going and to build on it as well. Yeah. Stress is the root of all evil.
Yes. Yes, it shows up in the body as physical illness. It shows up in our bodies as mental illness. It generally pulls down our impacts adversely our overall well-being. It's just bad.
Yes.
And it impacts not just us, but our entire ecosystem, because people who are around us get impacted. It impacts relationships. It screws up everything.
It does. And I've become very aware of energy and how we exchange energy, transfer it, and absorb energy from each other and things around us. And so if you're constantly absorbing somebody else's negative energy, then your positive energy kind of gets suppressed by all of that. You take it on, then you start emitting that out to other people. And so it goes, it's like a disease, like a virus, I suppose, that you just transmit to other people as they make the choice to exchange and absorb that energy. So again, it's your conscious choice. It's your moment to take a step back and say, hang on a second, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to absorb that energy and walk away from it, and recognize when negative energy is coming to you, because you will automatically start to feel darker moods, bit of anger, and you will start finding things in yourself that you don't like and picking on that and making things worse. It's like picking at a scab, so it doesn't heal. And until you make the choice that actually I'm going to stop picking this scab, I'm going to stop doing this, I'm going to let it heal, and I don't need that energy, and you can lift your energy back up again. But again, it's recognizing it, working on it, and then making that choice to keep working on it and keeping it positive, so that you can combat the negative that comes in. There will always be negative energy. There will always be stress. How you respond to it is your choice.
Yeah. And when we start making these changes, my guess is that it must be really hard in the beginning, because if there is somebody who's finding themselves up in in my environment now, and I'm used to being this person who responds to it in a way that I get sucked into it. When I try and break that pattern, does that not make me feel icky about myself, wondering, oh, I'm not that kind and empathetic person anymore?
It can do, because it hits on those guilt feelings as well.
Yeah.
And so all kinds of things go on inside of you then when you start questioning yourself. And again, it's recognizing that trigger that's made you bring all of this up, and then dealing with it and saying, okay, so where has this feeling come from? Why am I feeling like this? Then working on it and recognizing it, so the next time it doesn't happen again. So it's almost like a constant work in progress. That you finally come to that state of feeling as balanced as you can, and not allowing something else to trigger you. And also finding sometimes that when you are reaching that state of balance, when you're no longer being sucked in, when you're not absorbing, when you're not playing a part in all of this, is that those around you that are still thriving on that stress, that are still thriving on that negativity, somehow they just kind of disappear. But they're replaced by people who are picking up on the more positive side of you, and they're positive as well. And so you come in, and in that way, I suppose you kind of feed off each other, but in a positive way. Inspire each other rather than feed, because feed sounds more like a vampire, and it's not
vampire energy.
It's very much a cooperative, collaborative relationship. The negativity, that's the vampire relationship. The positivity is more of the inspiration and the support and collaboration. And so I do have people say to me, well, if I change my energy vibration, if I raise higher, will I be the same person? Will I still be loved? And to which I will say, first of all, well, if you love yourself, others will know how to love you, because they will see it. It's not a case of, well, they still love me. It's, do you love yourself? How do you love yourself? And then those people will come and love you the way you want to be loved, and you will radiate that out beyond you, and they will feel it from you as well. As for, will you be the same person? Well, in essence, yes, you will, but your perspectives will have changed, and that's not a bad thing. You'll be writing new chapters. That's fine. You're totally entitled to do that. And if those people who were with you before were only with you because you fed each other's negativity, then if they can't do that with you anymore, they will fade away. And it doesn't matter, because they have no place in your life at that point. You don't need that. It's going to keep dragging you down. So celebrate the fact that the new people coming in are there because they're good for you. So no, you won't essentially change, but there will be changes in how you feel and how you put that out, and then the people that you attract. And that's how I find it works.
Yeah, that has been my experience as well, Lesley. I can particularly think of somebody I know, and that's a person who can actually go on and on in a negative sense for hours and hours, and it's really hard being in those conversations, even if you really want to be with them. And a few months ago, I decided I just had enough. I just didn't want to spend hours and hours listening to somebody ranting and indulging in all that negativity. I wanted to be there for them, but the fact was they weren't changing anything.
Yeah.
And so I just made this decision that I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm sure that would have showed up in my behavior or in my choices. And then I noticed that they just dropped off my life.
Yeah.
And whenever they would resurface, they stopped having those conversations with me. They found someone else to have those conversations, but they were gone from my life as far as those conversations are concerned.
That's right. I have found that as well. I found my friendship circle in the last couple of years has gone through its own transformation, as I have done the same. And a lot of my friends now are friends that have really only been around in the last few years. I have maybe 3 or 4 friends that go back more than 10 years. And the rest are fairly new, but we are on the same level. And so we are there collaborating, cooperating, supporting one another and exchanging ideas and views, challenging each other sometimes in what we think and what we believe. But in doing so, helping, I think, to clarify that perspective that we have. And so it's all, as I see it, it's all for the good. It's all for the positive.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, you can't change people. So if somebody's going to continue being negative and love being negative, you have to step back and let them enjoy being miserable and negative until they realize that it's not doing them any good and they want to change. And then you can hold up a light and shine it for them and show them what their options are. But no one can change anybody. You just have to let them be and walk away. And if they do come back to you later on, maybe it's because they're seeking that change and you're their inspiration, perhaps.
So what we are saying here is, if we want to bring about a change, it has to start with us, even if we see that the stimulus is outside us.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I like some of the philosophers of past centuries, and one of my favorites is Rene Descartes, who was a chap who spent 7 days in a room with nothing but a chair and himself, and then came out with those wonderful words of, I think, therefore I am. And which basically means I am the only reality. There is only me. And anything else beyond me is what I project and what I make. And so everything else really is an illusion. And recently I started studying the Hawaiian belief of Ho'oponopono, and the root of their belief system is pretty much the same. So, you know, you are all that there is. And so your world is what is in here. So if you want the world outside of you to change, work on yourself. As you change, you project it, your world outside changes, and it comes back to you. And that is the notion of karma, as you put it out, so it comes back. So if you're going to put out misery and negativity, that's what you get back. But if you put out there love and positivity and harmony, that's what starts coming back to you. So your world is an extension of you.
Yeah, I remember doing a program on Ho'oponopono, and there's a point wherein our mentor teaches us that it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And the idea was to take responsibility for all of our experiences, even for things that seem outside our control and are being driven by other people. And they told us that if we wanted to change our experience of those things that were being driven by other people, choices being made by other people, we do the clearing on ourselves.
Yes.
And it just blew my mind away. It just blew my mind away.
It did with me, yes. I have to say, when I started learning that, because if people don't mind my just mentioning this, because I know it's not always an easy thing to talk about, but when I was at school, when I was 7 years old, I suffered sexual assault from a school caretaker, but over several periods. So it wasn't just once; it happened several times before. I took myself
so sorry.
That's okay. I've dealt with it now. That's the thing, and that was one of the things that was driving me for the rest of my life. Always being the victim and not understanding that that's what was going on. I never told anybody about it. I just took myself out of the situation that put me in his path. And when I started reading on Ho'oponopono and studying this, and they talked about taking the responsibility, a huge light bulb went on. It was like I don't know, what do you call it? A candelabra, almost like big for me, you know, more than just the light bulb. It was a real whoa moment. And they talked about cleaning down and, you know, clearing it. And so, yes, I worked on, okay, and I have the responsibility to make a change about this. I couldn't help what happened. I didn't ask what happened. It wasn't my fault. It just happened. But it's been my responsibility since to carry it around with me like a cloak and not even realizing I'm wearing it and having it affect my life. So now it's my responsibility to take the cloak off and to stop it from affecting me. And that was an overnight brain flip. I went to bed on the Sunday night feeling quite relaxed, and the next morning I woke up and I just felt like I'd woken up in a totally different world. And I felt like I was up there somewhere. It was a really huge energetic shift. And I just thought, wow, that's strong stuff. It was an amazing change and mindset change at the same time. But it made so much sense from then on.
Yeah. Yeah. Taking that cloak off is such a powerful metaphor.
It is. Yeah. Just dropping it and leaving it, walking away.
Yeah.
And then, literally taking the reins of your life, saying, right, I'm now in control. And so anything that's good, anything that's bad that happens from now on, it's my responsibility to do something about it. Then that's empowering. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. And would you say it was Ho'oponopono that helped you bring about this change?
It was part of it. It was quite a large contributor to it. The rest of it, I suppose, came from, like I say, my hypnotherapy training, my NLP practitioner training as well, and learning how the brain works, how it responds, how it reacts, how it holds on to things, and how the subconscious mind, whilst being your best friend and best ally, can also work against you if you don't tell it that you need to make a change. It will continue giving the same old until you say, right, enough is enough. We stop here and we're going to do something different. And we replace the old with something new. And we go forward from here. And so learning all of that, like I say, that's the chandelier going at that point, thinking, why didn't I figure this out years ago? But I wasn't meant to figure it out years ago, because if I had, I wouldn't have had the experiences I've had that now put me in the right position to help others do the same. So.
Yeah. I find Ho'oponopono a really powerful tool when we want to drop a story or wanting to create a new story, because we have got to create a drop off our unhelpful stories to make space for new ones. So I find it a really helpful tool.
That's right. Yes. And I've never really been a religious person. I was christened at the age of 8 months, but then I wasn't really given a choice. And when I joined the Brownies as a little girl, they forced me to go to church every second Sunday in the month, which I really wasn't really fussed about. So no, I've never been a religious person or practiced a religion, but I've always had a sense of spirit and spirituality. And so in addition to Ho'oponopono, I've done a lot more reading, some of it related to Buddhism, because that talks about energy and frequency and so on, and vibration, and looking more into that as well, and how that affects us without a lot of people realizing it. That's the Western life, the European life is, we're taught in these Christian Western European societies to cut ourselves off from each other, that this God is a mystical entity that sits in a cloud that's nothing to do with us, but it has all this control over us, that we are separate, and therefore that keeps us quite controllable, I think. And whereas more, what I would call more ancient civilizations that are still going to this day, I think have nailed it basically with that connection to spirit, the fact that all spirit is connected, all energy is connected, everything is energy, and we all vibrate at different frequencies, and the lower the frequency, the more, I suppose, depressed and stressed, and the more negativity that comes to you, and the higher your frequency goes, then that reverses itself, and it's like stepping into the light. And so combining all of these things together has put me more onto that spiritual healing path, because I've felt the healing within myself while I've been taking all of this on board. So that if that makes sense to people, that's how I feel it. Right? Yeah.
It definitely makes a lot of sense to me, because I grew up with that philosophy. Exactly what you explained about vibration, and we also have rituals and things we can do to raise our vibration consciously, because when life happens, it's not that we can always stay in high vibration, so we can help ourselves and get back us up. And yes, the spirit of connection with each other, with fellow human beings, and with source, whether we want to call them universe or God, higher self. People have different names for them, but yes, there is the whole Eastern philosophy that buys into it. It's based on it. Yeah.
Yes.
So definitely makes a lot of sense to me.
I wanted to pick my yes, but I think especially within the Christian religion, and whether it is the same for the other monotheistics, I don't know, but that when you mentioned to them that actually you are God, because God is energy and so are you, and we're all part of one energy. So if you want to say God is within you, then yeah, that's true, because you are God.
Mm.
So you are your supreme power. You just need to really get in touch with that and, start working on it. And those who I suppose have been coached by the church in a different way of looking at things will step back and question what you're telling them, because it's totally opposite to what they've been taught, and it's difficult sometimes for them to get their heads around that. So I don't have arguments with people over religion or spirituality. If they want to discuss things, I'll discuss things. I'll respect their views, they respect mine, but I don't seek to change anybody's view. But I just put these things forward, and then I leave it with them to do what they want with it. Kind of thing.
Yeah. There can be a whole fear-based approach to spirituality and religion, and I think it's not just one particular religion that suffers from it. I would say it pervades all the religions probably, but we can make that choice. We can choose what to subscribe to and what not to subscribe to.
That's right. And then of course that comes into all kinds of different areas of our lives. So our relationships and friendships, and also in terms of our business, how you have your perception of the world and of yourself, and what your beliefs are and where they're coming from will all feed into all of that. And so if you alter your perspective, if you raise your energy frequency, if you bring in more of the positivity and try and keep the negativity at bay, then you tend to find that relationships and friendships become a little bit easier. And if you've had a relationship that's actually been going south for a while, it might start coming back up again. And for myself, like I say, when I came into self-employment a couple of years ago, I came not really knowing where to go. First off, I knew what I wanted to do, but I still had that, oh crikey, everyone's going to think I'm a fraud kind of belief, which I've now managed to overcome. And it's through all of this work that I've done and these things that I've learned that have changed that perspective. So now I have that belief that yes, I can do this. And I am doing this. I'm doing it. It's not that I can. I am doing it, and I'm here. So changing those beliefs and bringing in more of that positivity and more of that visualizing what you want to be and stepping into it and becoming it, and having that faith in yourself and believing that you are that supreme power that you've been ascribing to, can have such a powerful effect on your own sense of success and achievement, and push you when you're feeling that bit of self-doubt. It can give you that push that you need.
Yeah, that reminds me of a big conflict that I had gone through as I was growing up. And it wasn't very long ago that I managed to really resolve that conflict. So there were two philosophies that I grew up with. One was this whole I am God kind of philosophy, wherein everybody originates from the source and they merge back into the source, which is essentially what the essence is. And the second is the whole fear-based philosophy, wherein we say that the higher powers are outside us and we've got to pray, and they are the ones who are bigger and they can give us things that we want in our lives, things that we are seeking. And I understood both the philosophies, and yes, one was fear-based and the other one was from a completely different space. But when I grew up, as I was growing up, I found it really hard to make sense of them both because they were so different. And I remember this conversation with a friend as an adult. And I asked one of my friends and said, do you believe in God? And she said, yes, I do. And this is somebody who I would say was several steps ahead of me in their spiritual journey. And I was somehow not expecting them to say yes, because I thought they weren't religious or, in the traditional sense. So I said, oh, really? And she went on to say, yes, I do, because I am God. And I just went, what? It made sense, but not quite. And that's really problematic, because when we believe that higher power is outside of us, we are always in that small, wanting place of scarcity, isn't it?
Yeah, that child, or sometimes I call it the slave mindset. So that everything that you need must come to you from outside, from another source. And whether that source is your God, or whether it comes from, I don't know, an institution or some sort of outside authority, you believe that, everything you need comes from there. And so you have that slave mindset that keeps you looking beyond yourself for what it is that you need. And so you believe that your happiness will come when you win the lottery. Your health will improve when you, I don't know, do whatever. But when it comes down to it, your happiness comes from within you. It starts within you. You can't buy it. You can't drink it. You can't eat it. It starts within you. You put it out, you don't take it in. And it's the same with love. Love is not an emotion. Happiness is not an emotion. They are states of consciousness. And when you live in those states of consciousness and you come at everything in your life from that state of consciousness, then it's like everything becomes possible. And all those limiting beliefs go away, because you just know everything about yourself. So it's getting away from that idea that these are emotions, which is the way we've been conditioned, that you have this emotion of happiness, you have this emotion of love, because it's been inspired by whatever. But actually, no, it's already there. If it isn't already there, then you can't have anything to put it there. You could be the richest man in the world, and you might live in the most opulent luxury. You're still the most miserable so-and-so that lives on the planet, because all of that opulence bought you nothing. Because you haven't got it in your heart. You haven't got your happiness and your love here. You don't love yourself, and your happiness comes from loving yourself. And if that's not there, then whatever you have around you is meaningless. It's just objects. So the richest person on the planet can have absolutely nothing, because it's all inside.
And that is because happiness is not an emotion, it's a state of being.
Yes, it is. It's how you are, not how you feel.
It's how you are, not how you feel.
Yes. I was asked the other day, what is the greater fear? Is it the fear of failure or the fear of success? And I asked the same question in my own group and got some interesting replies as well. But the response I provided, as it came to me, I just responded as it just came in. And I said, well, we're conditioned to accept failure as part of our lives. It's done through the education system largely, but through other means as well. We are taught to accept failure as just a part of our life. But the success we accept as a part of somebody else's. And so therefore, when we are faced with achieving our own success, for some, it feels like you're taking something that doesn't belong to you. And that feeds your guilt. So you feel guilty about being successful because this is somebody else's, not mine. And it's overwriting that self-limiting belief to, I am success. I don't have it, I am it. So everything you think you have, turn it into everything that you are. That's the only way you can own it. You can't own it by buying it or by winning it. You can only own it by creating it within you.
Yeah. I think this is probably the most beautiful explanation I have heard of fear of failure versus fear of success. While you were speaking, I was thinking back to all these stories about failure and success that I have listened to, and there were things like life happens to everybody. When we go through life, failure is bound to happen. So yes, that story of failure is normal. It is going to happen. It is inevitable. Yes, that was being bolstered. That story was being bolstered. But I can't remember many messages about success is bound to happen.
That's right. Yeah, you're just taught to try again, try again,
try again until you succeed. So there's so much emphasis on failure and there's so little emphasis on success.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to rewrite that. And there was a fellow therapist and friend of mine who once said to me, drop the word try, because it's negative and it allows for failure. So stop trying and just do it. Makes so much sense, doesn't it? Take that stage out, because trying allows you to sit back and procrastinate. Do it makes you do it. So take out the try.
Take out the try. Just do it.
Yes. Yeah, it sounds a bit like an advertising slogan, but yeah.
But it's one of those punchlines that I really like. Just do it.
Yeah, it's one of those quick and punchy, goes straight into your head and stays there. So maybe as a mantra, next time you're meditating, just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Keep it going in and then just do it.
Yeah, it does the job, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things like that. Positive affirmations and short mantras and things like that, I find very good at just bolstering you and picking up your vibration and just putting you up to a higher level, so then you can go out there and achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah. There was something that you said about having versus being. So I don't have success, I am success. How can we start making this shift, Lesley? Because this is such an important one, isn't it?
It is. And for one thing, like I say, if you're given to meditation, and I can't recommend meditation highly enough, I know what it does for me, and I use it a lot in my mindfulness sessions as well, because it's so powerful. And so just by going into meditation and just saying something like that to yourself is a way of rewriting your brain, so that it takes it on board and goes, yes, because your body will do whatever your brain tells it to do, and your brain will do whatever you tell it to do. So you're in the driving seat, so tell it what you want it to do. I am success. But also, and a very powerful visualization, and this can be done either physically with your eyes open, and it comes under the banner of Gestalt therapy, or you can do this again in meditation with your eyes closed, is to imagine the successful person you are. And how do you appear? How do you feel? How, you're looking, you're nice and sparkly, or whatever it is, however you appear to yourself as the successful you are success. And as a meditation visualization, then you just walk into that person and become that person. And that moment that you do that, and you take a nice deep breath, and you breathe in everything about that successful version of you, and all of those feelings, and you feel that transformation going through you from heart outwards, becoming this person. You feel your vibration going up. You know that it's possible. Again, in Gestalt therapy, and I experienced this personally, is where you're either sitting or standing, and opposite you imagine that successful self. And they might be 2 or 3 months down the line, but you imagine them. You talk to that successful self. What have you had to do to get here? Then you step into that successful self. Become them. Take everything on board that they've just told you that they needed to do to get to where they are. Then you turn around and talk to the person that you've just left behind. And tell them, this is what you've got to do to get here. And in doing that, you're rewriting your brain. So you can do this physically, or you can do it just as a visualization, but it's extremely powerful. and keep practicing it. So like I say, it's not something you do once, it's not a one-off. Keep doing it and keep doing it until you've rewritten everything here and you are. Because in terms of the law of attraction, that you put out, you get back. So if you're putting that out there, that will come back to you. There will be people that pick up on that and will be attracted to you as a result of that. So it's what you become. And that's where it starts, visualizing it, stepping into it to become it, rather than waiting for it to come to you, for you to become that person. You go out there and become that person.
But what do we do if when our mind gets in the way and starts telling us, but that's not true?
What is it that's driving that thought? Because that's a memory. That's a memory coming up. And it's being triggered by something. So what's triggered the memory? What was that initially, that trigger, right? What is the memory that's come up? Why? What is it related to? Why do you always have this memory come up at times like this? What is that going back to? Take it all the way back to the root and then erase it, replace it. So rewrite your past, rewrite your life, go back to that root and go, right, like killing an invasive plant in the garden, a weed, right? Drill its root and take it out. And you've got rid of it. And then you can plant something more beautiful in its place. And as a result, your life will go the direction you want it to. So if something does come up like that, it's old memory, shaking a little rattle at you. Like a little child going, wanting attention. So give it the attention, deal with it, get rid of it and replace it with something that's going to get you where you want to go.
Yeah. So we've got to acknowledge it, but not get sucked into it.
Yeah. Don't become it. Don't be attached to it. Detach. Detachment is a thing. And become completely detached from it and take it away. And don't let it become a part of you, because your memories aren't who you are. They're not what you are. They're just a part of your past. They're just a bit of the tapestry that's put you, where you've come this far, but that's not who you are. And it's just a memory. And your mind can be awful at doing things like that, because your subconscious mind, like I said before, it can be your best friend and it can be your worst enemy.
Yeah.
Because until you tell it something different and give it something else to take on board, it will keep trying to protect you. And sometimes in that protection, it will try to hold you back. Because like a protective parent, it doesn't want you to get hurt or injured in any way. So it will hold you back. So it will throw up this negative emotion, this negative memory, to remind you that actually you might be safer where you are, until you tell it, no, enough of that now. This doesn't serve me now. Getting rid of that. This is what we're doing from now on. So it's taking back that control. But until you do, the subconscious mind will keep you going around in the same loop until you tell it by making a change. And you overwrite what was there. You reprogram your brain so that you can go the direction you want to go.
And like you say, it's not a one-time activity. We'll have to do it over and over again to make those new neural connections.
Yes, that's right. You're rewiring your brain, you're reprogramming your brain.
Yeah.
A few months ago, I was chatting to a lady. This part of my week, I do a little bit of support work with the University of Nottingham, a small team that's doing trials and studies into recovery from mental illness. And as part of that, I needed to contact some people that got towards the end of their trial, and we just needed to remind them of a few things they needed to do. And as the lady answered the phone, she greeted me by name, because I'd already sent a text message to say, well, I'll be contacting you at this time. And this 2-minute phone call lasted for 22 minutes. And she was telling me her whole life story about her life with depression and anxiety, and the fact that she got to the point where she was going to try and get over to Switzerland to Dignitas because she'd had enough. And I just said to her, I keep hearing through everything you're telling me that I know I've got this for life. This is my life. I said to her, and I can tell you now, it's not. And it doesn't have to be your life. And she stopped And I just carried on talking to her a bit, and she said, so are you telling me then I can reprogram my brain? I said, exactly that. And she said, well, and I heard her voice actually go from down here to up there in one sentence. She said, no one's ever told me that before. I had no idea I could do that. I said, well, now you've got something to explore. Go and try. And a little bit later on, she was talking to one of the research teams, the people in the research team, and they came back to me with some feedback and said, oh, she actually said, oh, please pass my thanks on to Lesley. For the first time in my life, I feel I can draw the curtains open on my life now. Just because somebody said, you don't have to live with this. And that made such a profound difference to her. So something as simple as that can change your life. Just changing that belief can turn your life completely around. And you have that power. You are that powerful. You are your God. You are that powerful.
That gave me goosebumps. You changed her life in those 22 minutes.
It was a wonderful.
Literally.
It was a wonderful feeling for me. I mean, I'm not feeding my ego here by any means, and it wasn't a phone call I was expecting to take that turn. But by the end of it, I thought, well, if I've stopped getting on a plane to go to Switzerland, that was worth it.
Yeah.
That was my main thought. If she's still alive, because somebody told her you don't have to do this,
yep,
then great, my job is done. I'm happy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, well done, you. Oh, this was so good. This was so good, Lesley. So tell us, how can people experience some of this goodness with you? How can they work with you?
Well, for one thing, I do run my free Facebook group, which is called the Unhypnotized Collective. And I call myself the Unhypnotist, which came about through a chat with an accountability partner who we're like Venn diagrams. We do similar things, but we're in different fields, but we sort of cross over in mindfulness and that kind of thing. And he said, yeah, I suppose in a way, he says, we do change people's ways of thinking. And I said, yeah, I suppose we unhypnotize them, don't we? And he said, that's brilliant. You could be the unhypnotist. And I thought, I'd never thought of that. So that started that. So I'm the unhypnotist. I run the Unhypnotized Collective. And the whole point of that unhypnotizing is for you to rewrite your brain, to come out of that hypnosis you've been under since you were born, that tells you that you're second best, that you've got to keep trying, that you'll never be successful, that you're ugly and whatever else you might have running around in your head, that rewrites all those narratives. So you re-hypnotize yourself so that you can achieve what you want to achieve. I'm also now, I have put together a short 5-week introductory program in how to reach that alignment and harmony within yourself so that you can start that process of unhypnotizing and rehypnotizing and rewriting yourself. And at the moment, I am looking for beta testers if anyone's interested. So please get in contact with me, either send me a direct message, whatever, if you want to have a chat about this. So we can go through that as well. And I work one-to-one as well with people. So I do that both online and face-to-face in my small room here behind me. And with that, it's very much a tailored process. So it's tailored to the individual and to what they want as their outcomes. And that's combining the hypnotherapy along with that spiritual realignment and growth. And it's a minimum 5 weeks that people work with me. And then after that, if they feel they want to go on longer, then obviously there are other options available. And so I work with people to get them to rewrite their entire lives. And so they can come out of them, not as a new person, but from a new perspective and start the next chapter. Yes, that's me. I'm based in Nottinghamshire. So if anyone is local to me, and when I say local, that's sort of East Midlands area. But again, get in touch, and I'm happy to do either face-to-face or online. So.
Wonderful. So there are lots of different options for people, however they want to work with you.
And also, if there's anyone here that works in other businesses, or they work for employers rather than for themselves as well, or maybe you run a small business with staff, and if you're looking to set up a wellbeing service for your staff, you want some mindfulness sessions in there, then please get in touch. I do a variety of different mindfulness, and so I do some visualization work, meditation, breathing techniques, all kinds of different things. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Lesley, before we let you go, what is one big message you would like to share with our audience?
I think the same message that we have for the session, which is it is never too late to rewrite your life. It isn't. It doesn't matter how many years you think you've got behind you and how many you've got in front of you. All you have is now. Now is all you have. Tomorrow doesn't exist. Yesterday has disappeared. And you only ever wake up this morning. You only ever wake up today. You only live today. And even the next 2 hours from now, you have no idea really what's going to happen in those 2 hours. You might have a plan, but you've no idea. You only have now. So it's never too late. And you start now.
It's never too late to rewrite your life. Lesley, thank you so much for this powerful conversation. I loved our time together.
Thank you, Powell. It's been wonderful to have this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lesley.